Things just got out of hand.
Hello, my Trigger Happy friends. My name is Stevie Cade, and welcome to Film Trigger. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is a movie that I've been fairly waiting for. The closer it's gotten, the more excited I have been for it, the more possibilities that this movie could deliver on the future of the MCU. It just kind of snowballed, and then right before I went to go see it, I was just super pumped about it, and, well, let's see if this movie delivered. But before we do, if you could, hit that like, thumbs up button, the subscribe button, and the little bell ding thing so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Without further ado, let's dive into my spoiler-free review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Right out the gate, I'm going to let you know that I've never been a huge Doctor Strange fan. I've seen the first movie like a couple times, but it doesn't really resonate with me. It just falls to the wayside in my MCU list of movies that I really enjoy. But that doesn't mean I don't like the character Doctor Strange. I love the way he's used in the other films. So let's dive into what I like about this film. This is a fun movie on many, many levels. It's a multiverse trotting adventure that begs for suspension of disbelief while also grounding you in true emotion. It's a bit hokey, it's a bit cheesy, it seems a little outdated, which is weird, and it doesn't feel like the normal MCU movie, which I like. This is a standalone movie. At least it comes across that way to me, which might be where the MCU is going, or maybe this is just a Doctor Strange thing, possibly. Because the first movie was also that kind of same thing, kind of existed in its own little island, and then we cherry-picked from that movie to use in elements in the other movies. So maybe that's what this is too. I don't quite know, but all in all, it feels like a standalone film. This was a very good-looking movie in the way of special effects and visual effects and what have you, except for that third eye thing. That looks weird. It didn't look any better in the movie than it did in the trailer. I thought the trailer was kind of like that whole, oh, we haven't quite got it down yet. It will look better during the movie. Not so much. But besides the third eye thing, the movie looks stunning. Another thing I really liked about this movie was the story that was being told. But I'm not sure where the audience is going to land on how they receive this movie. Especially if you're into the Disney Plus Marvel series that's going on right now, because this movie has a hard time really connecting to those. And we'll dive into that in just a little bit, but just keep that in mind moving forward in this review. Or when you actually go see the movie, keep that in mind also. To me, this movie feels like to the MCU the way Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi felt to Star Wars. It's a great story, and it's visually stunning, but it kind of doesn't fit the movies surrounding it. So it depends on what you want from the MCU. When it came to Star Wars, people wanted a streamlined story being told, and then Rian Johnson's like, hey, but I want to tell this story, and they're like, okay, well, you tell that story. And then audiences were divided completely on it because it was a good story, but totally didn't flow with the storyline telling of the Star Wars franchise, and that's what this movie does. So it depends on what you're looking for when you're going into this film. If you're looking for a nice standalone, take the family to a good movie and enjoy it without any expectations or taking anything from it moving forward, then this is the movie for you. But if you're looking for MCU connectivity, you're not going to find it here. But again, I'm okay with it. I actually like this direction, so that's why it's on the what I like portion of my review. But as I said, this is a wonderful story of child being chased through the multiverse for her powers. They want her powers. But even through this cosmic journey through many, many different multiverses, you get pretty decent character development with Doctor Strange, probably the most character development we've had of him so far. And we get really good character development with Wanda, or AKA Scarlet Witch. And the story jumps off right at the beginning. You are thrown right into the action of this movie. It really sets up the expectation, the theme, and the pacing of the movie, and sticks with that all the way through the rest of the movie. And I loved the horror movie elements of this film. You can definitely tell the Sam Raimi magic that was going on behind scenes, and a lot of Evil Dead vibes to me. But it's still family friendly. Well, like, family friendly in the sense of scary stories to tell in the dark is also family friendly. So take that for what you will. When I first heard Scarlet Witch was going to be in this movie, I literally called exactly why she was going to be in this movie and how she was going to play off in this movie. And what I predicted is pretty much exactly what happened. Now, is that earned? Not so much. I think the story with her kids is very profound, and Elizabeth Olsen's performance is absolutely stellar.
I do it, I become the enemy. It doesn't seem fair.
I felt for her. I empathized for her. But I didn't quite believe that Wanda was to this level because it hasn't, as I said, it hasn't earned this Wanda that we get in this movie. The Scarlet Witch that we get in this movie wasn't really earned. And that's what brings me to what I'm on the fence about when it comes to this movie. I feel like there's an entire movie missing here, or maybe they edited out something in Sam Raimi's original cut of this film, but there's a lot of character development that got Wanda from where we last saw her in WandaVision to this point that there's a missing piece. We left her here at WandaVision, then she's way up here in this movie, and I don't quite understand it. Vision's not even mentioned in this movie, and that was like her entire thing was Vision, and then it just moved on to her kids, and Vision's like, I don't know, fuck that guy, I guess. I mean, White Vision's still out there, right? Right? Isn't that a thing? Like, wouldn't that play into this? I thought that would, but it doesn't. This movie just really kind of ignores everything outside of itself, for the most part. Editing. This movie was highly edited, and I can tell. Not necessarily to the degree of like Morbius or anything like that, but definitely some meddling happened here when it comes to editing and actually reshoots. I mean, there's a good portion of this movie where Wong's hair is longer than it is in the rest of the movie. And actually, it's actually the entire middle part. His hair is just a little bit longer, but on the beginning and the end, it's shorter, but it's all supposed to be taking place at the same time. No like time jumps here, so either they reshot the beginning and the end, or they reshot the entire middle. Both are concerning. Both raise a lot of questions of why. The Illuminati scene was both fucking awesome and very disappointing all at once.
Will not go unpunished.
We should tell him the truth.
The Unleashed Wanda was freaking badass, dude. It was morbid. It was horror. She was frightening and kicking ass with nothing held back. But this scene, with all that going on, was also very weak. Way weaker than it should have been, and it felt highly edited. I don't know. I can't tell if there was a lot going on in this movie and they edited it out, or if there was like not much going on in this movie and then they just added this in last minute. Either way, we get this one result. Like Seth pointed out to me, Seth, my son, Seth Draven, you watch the channel, you know the kid, he's here all the time. He told me that there's 7 Illuminati and 7 chairs, but we're only introduced to 6 Illuminati, and for the most part, they cut out that 7th chair in framing. So who was in that 7th chair, and why did they cut him out? Was it you, Tom Cruise? Were you in that 7th chair? But outside of that, this scene seems very fabricated. Like I said, an afterthought almost. Like they were just sitting around going, hey, you want to put the Illuminati in this movie? Yeah? Okay, well, I'm just going to put them right here. All right, they're in. Like, it doesn't seem well thought out. As a matter of fact, I think the Illuminati is supposed to be like this multiverse collection of like the elites of super-powered heroes or whatever. But in this movie, it's just kind of like that universe's version of Avengers, minus the integrity of our Avengers. Like, I'm not even sure if they're supposed to be good guys. I don't know. They seem like maybe half of them are, but then like the other half are dicks. I can't tell. Either way, the Illuminati was completely neutered in this movie. At least from what I can tell of what the Illuminati are supposed to be. And there are a few good cameos in this movie, and don't worry, I'm not going to say who they are, but I am going to kind of talk about it just a little bit, but no spoilers, trust me. What I think is supposed to be the big surprise in this movie, the one cameo everyone's going to freak out about, it was a very phoned-in performance. I'm gonna say that. I've wanted to see this cameo for a long time. I never thought I would see it. I didn't think it was going to happen. And then I saw it. And the performance was meh. Meh. How are you going to meh that performance? Well, I don't want to give away any more than just that, but when you go see it, let me know if you think it was a phoned-in performance. If you already have seen it, let me know in the comments below, but please don't spoil it. Just don't spoil it. Someone's going to spoil it, aren't you? God damn it. Be careful looking in the comments. Moving right along with things I don't like about this movie. The score. Oh, Danny Elfman, you strike again. I found the score to be outdated, confusing. It just didn't work for me in this movie. I kept noticing this guitar riff that would play, and it would just randomly show up. Like, usually a score is like, when you play a certain score, it's either the whole tone of the movie is this one score, and then each individual character gets their own score. I couldn't figure out where this score comes from. I believe it showed up 2 or 3 times, but it just randomly shows up, and it doesn't fit in this movie. It actually sounds like it would be a part of like a 90s buddy cop film. You know, that like heavy distortion, like slow pacing. You know, you see one of the more brooding cops drinking at the bar, and then you hear that guitar riff. Like, that's what it sounded like. Didn't really fit in the multiverse of madness. And I didn't realize that Danny Elfman scored this movie until one scene where they're, how do I say this without spoiling it? There's a battle, there's a musical battle, if you will, where music is like the focal point of this fight scene. During one of the bad guys doing one of his bad guy things, there's this very Phantom of the Opera, like, organ sound that just busts out, and it was so low-hanging fruit of bad guy music. I'm pretty sure it was Phantom of the Opera. The first thing that popped in my head was, that sounds like a Danny Elfman thing. Danny Elfman would go for the low-hanging fruit when it comes to this moment. And from then on, after that, I kept hearing, and I'm like, okay, that's Danny Elfman. All right. The reason why I put it on what I don't like is because this actually took me out of the movie. If you guys watch my reviews, and you know my reviews, you know that I almost never talk about scores. I only talk about them if I notice them, and I only notice them if they're really good or really bad. This one took me out of the movie because it just didn't fit. It didn't quite fit the tone of the movie, and I didn't get it. And then when I realized it was Danny Elfman, all I could hear was snippets of Batman theme and Simpsons theme and every other theme that Danny Elfman ever done, and he keeps regurgitating into his movies. And the last thing I don't like about this movie, and I'm actually going to tag this on to my petty points, and that was the obligatory Sam Raimi cameo that we're all expecting to get in this movie, but I'm not going to say who. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. And that cameo just didn't hit it for me. I mean, it's kind of funny because there is a post-credit scene that kind of does another punchline with that same cameo, which is got a little chuckle. But for the most part, it just seemed over the top and like, all right, you ready for the cameo? Well, here it is. Like, okay, well, you did your show. Let's move on with the movie, please. Thanks. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. As I said at the beginning, it was a lot of fun. Like, I didn't have, there was really no boring parts. There weren't any scenes or dialogue where I'm just like, oh God, what's going on? A few iffy things here and there. A phoned-in performance. The music didn't quite hit it for me. But also, something that does add to my critique of this movie is, even though it did feel like a standalone movie, I really had high expectations of what this movie could do for the MCU. Like, I really thought this was going to round up all the Disney Plus things that we've seen all summer and all winter leading up to this, and it didn't. I was very upset. Like, why doesn't Loki connect to this movie? Loki should connect to this movie. Why doesn't WandaVision directly connect to this movie? I mean, it takes elements of WandaVision, but like where we leave Wanda at WandaVision, it's not the Wanda we get in this movie. There's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really pan out from the previous things, and this doesn't set up anything moving into the future except for another Doctor Strange movie. I guess that's just my expectations, because the MCU has made it very clear that that's what they do. They're constantly going to have continuity that connects each movie to the next one, but maybe they're starting to drop the ball on that. I don't know if it's on purpose or by accident. To be fair, the MCU is getting very convoluted with their continuity, and it's going to be an issue, so maybe the only way to rectify that is to actually start doing more standalone movies like this, and maybe that's their plan. Or maybe Sam Raimi just slipped into shit and came out smelling like a rose. I don't know. Take that for what it is. But this movie was riddled with what I thought was painfully obvious edits to the film and also painfully obvious reshoots. But I did have a lot of fun with this movie, and if you're looking for a good time, go see this movie in theaters and see it in 3D. I saw it in 3D. It was actually pretty awesome. So overall, I give this movie a B-.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
There you have it, guys. My non-spoiler review for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Tell me, what did you think of this movie in the comments below? Please don't be spoilery about it, because this is a spoiler-free review. I don't want people to go into comments and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh yeah, well, this person was in this movie. What do you think? Nobody cares. Just let them go enjoy the movie. Also, be sure to check out some more of my videos. And as always, stay trigger happy, my friends. Peace.
It doesn't seem fair.